All right. Well, good evening, members of council, administration, and also our delegation. And also welcome to those who are streaming from the comfort of home. Welcome to our meeting. There were no closed meetings that were dealt with prior to our meeting this evening, as well as the land acknowledgement has been read out at a special meeting earlier this evening. And so I'll go directly to the members and ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest on the agenda as presented to you this evening. None declared. And as well as I'd like to also report that Councillor Houston will not be with us this evening. He's on personal leave, and we wish him well. Minutes. The minutes of the regular council meeting, members of council, January 25th. Also the minutes on the special council meeting of January 26th, 22. If I could have a motion to adopt those, both those minutes. Councillor Tonio moves and supported by Councillor Altenhoff. On those minutes, any errors or omissions? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? The minutes are carried. Thank you. There are no supplementary agenda to deal with this evening. And so we'll go right into our delegations, members of council. And we have with us Ms. Josette Eugenie and Mr. Jeff Sylvester, and it's a request for 911 signage for vacant rural properties. All right. Ms. Eugenie, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. If you don't mind, I'm going to read a little bit of something because I adapted it from an article and I thought it was well written, so I hope this is helpful. The article was from the Watershed magazine, and it's titled Making Our Rural Routes Safer, Farm 911, the Emily Project. Farm workers may be familiar with the area they're working in, but not the actual road that they're on. And emergency responders may not know the access point of a field. That's what happened in late summer of 2014. 7-year-old Emily Trudeau lay critically injured in a field while her parents frantically called 911. To their horror, the emergency response team was unable to find the location of the accident. The wait was too long, and Emily died of her injuries. As is often the case, this unimaginable tragedy brought the community together, not only to support the Trudeau family, but to honor Emily's life and to ensure that no other family suffers the same devastating experience. Farm 911, the Emily Project, was launched to improve emergency services in rural communities by helping farmers and landowners obtain proper civic address signs on fields and woodlots, and by promoting the need to maintain emergency access to those properties. A civic street address is something many of us assume is a given. In most municipalities, properties with an existing home or those with building permits are addressed automatically, relaying to emergency dispatchers. But here's the problem. If a piece of property, a farmer's field or a woodlot, doesn't have a structure on it, it's considered vacant. And vacant land isn't typically assigned a civic address. When a 911 call is received from a cell phone in a field without a civic address, only information available to the dispatcher comes from the caller's verbal description of the location. Farmers have inherently risky jobs, but the Farm 911 project aims to make their jobs and their lives safer by advocating for rural addressing programs and educating the community on its impact, all the while paying tribute to the Trudeau family. The people and organizations behind Farm 911, the Emily Project, are determined to ensure that Emily's death wasn't in vain, but rather a force for positive change. After having read an article about this, it seemed urgent to me to try and obtain civic addresses for the farms where my dad and brother farm. It's fairly common that farm fields are named by, turn at the red barn. You can find the mailbox that looks like a tractor. It's the next entrance. These kinds of things aren't helpful when we're trying to get emergency responders to the field. And often those fields are surrounded by large municipal drains, big ditches. And if you don't know where the access point is, those farm fields can be large, and finding the entrance point can be difficult. So I started in October discussing with administration. I thought it was going to be a simple process. I just asked for an address sign. You see them all over the place, the green 911 signs, but it's not that simple. I was advised that they needed some direction from council. So I'm here hoping that that's something council is interested in helping me with, and that we can get civic address signs for Tecumseh farmers. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Jeannie, for bringing this up to council certainly this evening. I'll open it up to members of council. Is there any questions or comments that you want to bring forward? Yes, Councillor Tonio, Deputy Mayor McKetty, and Councillor Jobin.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, Josette, thank you very much for bringing this forward. Good initiative. Glad we have citizens like yourself that think of these things and want to bring it forward to make our town better. I like the idea very much so. Nowadays, people are using cell phones more than land phones, so the dispatchers can't identify the home as much. If we have properties that don't even have a home, that's even more of an issue. As a past police officer, I could tell you we've been many calls that were just out there somewhere and there is no physical address, and that is dangerous and it's unsafe. Anything that will help our citizens get a better response from first responders will save lives and make a big difference. So I'm interested in this idea and moving forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tonio. Deputy Mayor McKetty.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think, thank you, Josette. The request that you have is for Tecumseh, but I'm thinking, this is more of a county-wide initiative as well, because whether it be LaSalle or Essex, I think we should include this at the county through the mayor, who's also the ward. And I know back many years ago, our region developed those green signs or signage to help with the addresses. So if you go down certain roads, even on L'Esperance with the deep lots and the concession roads, you do see some addresses, but I think you're talking more of an access point, right? In terms of getting onto the property where the vehicles can turn. And I think that, that is important. And I'd like to hear back. I know that's in the recommendation to refer to administration, but perhaps not only just a Tecumseh solution, to perhaps forward this and consult with the county where we can have a regional approach, because there is no municipal boundaries when it comes to first responders and emergency response. So I think we need to treat this as a region, and if there is some kind of suggestions to take that approach.
Thank you.
Mr. Ginny, you want to respond?
If you don't mind, thank you for the opportunity to talk. I did speak with the county, and they do not sign properties. That's a individual municipal initiative. We have a farm in Essex, and they have a process in place already. So I was able to get the signs, actually a couple of farms in Essex, and those individual properties they have a process established. So some of our communities do have a process in place, some do not. I think it's probably a fantastic discussion at the county level, so that all of the municipalities can be as well prepared as Tecumseh will be. But I think the individual municipalities have to have an internal process. The county doesn't do addressing, as I understood it. Maybe administration has better information about that. Thank
And
you.
I think that's where I'm going with this is my point is we need to be consistent and uniform. I don't like to have, well, you're in Tecumseh now, we know where to go. I think, I don't know, maybe our CAO, Madam, you can maybe bring it up at the CEO meetings if there's an appetite. I think I'd like to at least have that discussion, Josette, with the other CAOs and maybe through that level of administration to see, what is it that these, we can offer, and if there is no appetite, and then I don't have a problem saying, okay, let's maybe perhaps look at Tecumseh. I just like to us to be, in terms of uniform when it comes to that, because if it's a worthwhile project in terms to help people respond and help, I think there should be no municipal boundaries for that.
I know that's Councilor Job but there's a response from our CAO to the deputy mayor's comment. Madam CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very quickly, and I think that we can certainly do that as part of the recommendation that we have for you with respect to the delegation this evening, is to refer it to administration. We'll look and see what other municipalities are doing in Essex County. It's a lower tier responsibility here, so we would have to canvass the other jurisdictions, and we're quite prepared to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Jobin.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Josette, as well, for bringing this to our attention. I did do a little research also. So Tecumseh did roll this out, I want to say in 2018. And what they did was first 50 paid half price or half the fee for the sign, because there is cost associated to the sign. So that would be some form of discussion in whatever type of policy or how we already distribute our signage, our 911 signs. But I did speak to a couple of farmers as well, of course, saying, why haven't we done this? And some have brought up a concern that Tecumseh didn't make it mandatory on the agricultural farmlands. And some of the farmers in this area have, let's say, 2 parcels that are severed. Doesn't matter the scale or size or acreage. Let's just say they own 2 parcels that are severed and have their own roll number, but they have one access bridge to utilize that until the future. They feel like they have to put in another access bridge. They only have the one. The fear and concern is now they're going to be mandatory forced to put in another bridge access to accommodate a 911 address number. So those are things like to consider, I guess, when administration starts putting a report forth. Just a point that was brought to my attention is their concern for having a 911 sign. They'd have to put in a $50,000 culvert bridge access to just because of the roll number and the division of already the lands. I don't know if you guys understand that. Look a little puzzled. Yeah.
Josette.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. So what I understand has happened in other communities, and what I was able to do in Essex is identify where the access point is. And it's an application process, not a broadcast sign for all farms. So the farm, you make the individual application for that particular farm. You identify where the entrance bridge is, because where the entrance bridge is they'll have to give it a relevant address. So as I have understood it from other communities, it's not a mandatory thing, but an application-driven process. So if you did have 2 roll numbers, you would just need to identify what, I think, bridge you were trying to have the sign assigned to. So I'm not sure if that's how Tecumseh would handle it, but that's what I've seen and experienced. Thank you for that point.
Any, go ahead. Any further questions or comments? Then I'll ask, obviously, the recommendation, that we refer the administration for review and recommendation. But I certainly, the way I see it as well is that there could be separate farms, but or 2 different roles, same farm, but they all have to have access to all of those fields somehow. And so Certainly, I think it has a lot of merit too, because I know even on how difficult sometimes for you know, my son's a first responder in the fire service. And there's nothing more frustrating than trying to attend to an emergency and you can't figure out where it is. And you know, and so anything that we can do to manage safety within the community, or I think it's something that we need to examine, and that's why I think it's a good move. To a lot of the comments that were made by you know, certainly Councilor Jobin and Deputy Mayor McKetty and so forth. You know, through administration, it can basically have that conversation. But I firmly believe that this is a ground up type delivery, not a top down at this stage, because of the responsibility of what the lower tier has on addressing. And so I think it's proper to move it towards administration to review it and bring back a recommendation to us at a later date. So I would certainly put that to council, a motion to refer to administration to review and recommend. Councilor Altenhoff and Councilor Dowie. No further questions or comments. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Once again, thank you, Ms. Eugenie, for bringing this forward to us. And I'm sure that as this report comes forward to council, that we'll obviously let you know when this is coming back to certainly to council.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and for everyone's understanding and questions and attention. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. All right, members of council, we move on to communications, and we have 6 pieces of communications to bring forward on receipt. Moved by Councilor Dowie, supported by Councilor Jobin, that we received the said correspondence. All in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. On to those receipt, is there any communications that members of council would want to bring forward? Or Councilor Tonio.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Number 5 there, the closing of revolving doors of the justice resolution. It's interesting that other municipalities are experiencing some things that we're experiencing right now. Currently have a neighborhood that is experiencing this type of thing, and the individual keeps getting released. There's professional criminals out there that know the system and know how to play the system, and that's their job, is to steal and make money off of that and go to jail once in a while, and they're okay with it, but it's wrong. And 3 strikes you're out type of deal, you know, a couple times. But some people are committing, 10, 20 offenses every month, and they're being released, and it's just not proper and needs to be adjusted for these career professional criminals that have been doing it for years and years and years. So that's the comment I have on that topic.
Well, in that, so would you at this stage here a letter of support to the city of Brantford on closing of the revolving door and justice resolution?
Absolutely.
You
I'd
move
like to
that?
recommend- Yes, I would.
You would move that, and then supported by Councilor Jobin. No further comments. I totally agree with your comments, Councilor Tonio. Councilor Jobin, comments?
Not on that one, but on another.
Okay.
Sorry.
All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's unanimous. Councilor Jobin.
Thank you. So on number 3, the Township of Agila, Tel Sorrento, dated January 25th, the funding and support of infrastructure for bridge and culvert replacements in rural municipalities. The letter doesn't state specifically if it's under the Drainage Act work specifically, but overall it's a request for additional funding in the rural municipalities, which honestly, sometimes it's just the costs and bridge culverts are often our biggest sticker shock whenever we have any type of maintenance or works on any municipal drain. I do hope that we can also support this letter.
A very good point, Councillor Jobin. I know as the former president of AMO, we were always reminded to remember like the real small rural communities and that where 1% tax increase only raises between $40,000 and $50,000. And some bridge repairs and one culvert might cost them $300,000 to $400,000 or $500,000. And you could see, the cost of to the smaller rural communities where it becomes almost cost prohibitive. And without monies from the upper levels of government, certainly makes it very, very difficult and very costly for municipalities to deal with the repair and replacement of the culvert. So I certainly would agree with your comments that sometimes the bigger communities should be supporting our little communities in these type of asks.
Yes, for
So
sure.
it's moved by Councillor Jobin, supported by Councillor Arnaud, that we support the township of Adjala.
Thank you.
Councillor Dowie,
I just would like to show support.
okay, thank you very much. So on the motion, all in favor? Opposed, that is carried. Anything further, members of council, on the first six? If not, then we do have also communications action required. We have two pieces. The first one is the Office of the Solicitor General. That's dated on January 21, 2022. That's the court security and prisoner transportation of Ontario, and a motion to refer to the Police Services Board that the Ministry of Solicitor General regarding review, court security and prisoner transportation be sent to Police Services Board. Councillor Dowie moves, support. Deputy Mayor Bichetti. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed, that is carried. Second item for action is from the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and that's dated on January 27, 2022. And that's the AMO-LAS Virtual Municipal Energy Symposium that will be held on March 31st and April 1st. And that the motion that the LAS Virtual Municipal Energy Symposium at a cost of $275 plus tax in accordance with the town's professional development policy and subject to funding in the 2022 budget. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bichetti, and do I support Councillor Jobin? On the motion, all in favor? Opposed, if any of that is carried. Thank you, members of council. And then we'll move on to committee minutes. We got the town Tecumseh Business Improvement Area, the minutes of January 19th, 2022. The motion is to accept the minutes as presented. Councillor Dowie moves, and do I have support? Councillor Antonio, any comments or questions? Councillor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship. And through you, the one thing I wish to kind of bring to the attention, it seems like there's a lot of indication of, see agenda attachment, for example, on item 8.5 committee reports. I'm sorry if I missed it, or I couldn't find it, but I couldn't find a lot of those attachments. So, I don't know, maybe to administration, if something was missed here, or maybe if it was just my mistake and I could be directed to it eventually. It's just, I didn't know if it was fully complete.
All right. I looked at administration, or maybe the clerk, or.
Your worship, I think it's a matter of they're referring to the attachments in their agenda, the agenda package for the meeting.
Their agenda.
We can certainly work with the BIA to make that a little bit clearer in their minutes as to what they're referring to. Your worship, Councillor Dowie has his hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Dowie.
Well, thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Councillor Altenhoff. Yeah, that's correct. The agenda They are references to the agenda. So for anybody watching who would like to see, tecumsehbia.com or on the town's website with the specific meeting date. There are sources to see those attachments. But if there are any specifics that you'd like, I was present at that meeting and I can answer any questions.
Councillor Outlaw.
No general questions. I just wanted to make sure that, for completeness, appropriate reference. And again, I just appreciate maybe just a word or two to include with the URL so that we can link up, the specific points. Again, I'm just referring to 8.5 in that. I think it was in other sections as well. But just for getting closure and clarity on the report or on those minutes, just for everyone who wishes to review them. Thank you.
And then I will just ask Councillor Dowie that when you're at your next BIA meeting, just maybe direct some of those comments so it makes it a little bit easier. Kind of similar to, when we have our own and attachments attached, we've got the general discussion or description of the report the administration tells us, and then we tag on to the attachment, and then it elaborates on it. So maybe something in that nature would make it easier to follow, not only for us, but certainly for the general public that are also looking at our minutes as we move along.
Thank you.
Okay. So they're duly moved and supported, and so I'll have a motion. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to reports, and the first report is from our Director of People and Culture, Ms. Bonini, and you're going to summarize your report and give us a recommendation.
Thank you, Mayor McNamara. Good evening, Council. As directed by Council at the November 9, 2021 regular Council meeting, administration has reviewed the correspondence received from QP Ontario pertaining to OMER's investment performance and determined that no further actions required on the part of the town due to the fact that OMER's has provided a detailed response to the Ontario Municipal Administrators Association concerning the matters raised. The response provided by OMER's, in fact, highlighted that following the 2020 results, the OMER's Administration Corporation, AC Board of Directors, whose professional members include 2 representatives nominated by QP, undertook a thorough and extensive review of the OMER's investment strategy and their past decisions. As a result of this, they concluded that their current investment strategy is appropriate and that an independent review is not warranted. In light of this, it is recommended that report CAOPC 2022-01 entitled QP Ontario's Call for an Independent Expert Review of OMER's be received as information. Thank you.
And I would certainly fully recommend that we support the report as presented. Moved by Councillor Outlaw, supported by Councillor Jobin. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed, if any? That's carried. And I'm glad they brought the report forward, because at the time when I first started to read it, I said maybe they should call MEPCO the sponsor group that AMO is responsible or part of, and would have got a good answer to the questions. But
Absolutely.
and you guys are right on top of it.
Thank you.
All right, so on the motion, all in favor? Opposed, carried. That's good. Move on to community and recreational services. We've got with us our director to summarize the report and recommendation on the 2022 Parks Capital Works Plan.
Yes, good evening, Mayor McNamara, members of council, and through the mayor's chair, I'd like to present tonight. There's 3 reports, actually. The first one we're dealing with will be the 2022 Parks Works Capital Projects, and we're looking to for approval from council this evening on that attachment 1. And then a separate report in 2022 regarding the remainder of the 2022-2026 Community and Recreation Services Parks five-year capital report will be forthcoming following the conclusion of the ongoing discussion with council regarding project prioritization. In attachment 1, I will note right off the bat that there was an error and I missed on, it should have been the Lacoste pickleball fencing and landscaping project, not the Lakewood pickleball. There is no pickleball court at Lakewood, and that was just an error on my behalf, and I didn't catch that. So I'm open to council, any questions on the project listing that is here this evening.
Questions or comments? Councilor Dowie.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Mr. Anthony. Thank you very much. Lots of exciting projects pending for 2022, and I undoubtedly will have a lot of demand for these facilities. Just a quick question on the splash pad. Wondering if that is, so with design this year, does that make construction next year?
That is correct. So it will be forthcoming in the priorities discussion we have with council, but the intent is that we do the work this year to do the design for the washrooms and the splash pad with construction in 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Altenhoff.
Thank you, Worship. And through you, I just wish to kind of acknowledge Mr. Anthony. I spoke with him earlier today about this and that other issue he mentioned and his quick correction to it. So I appreciate his attention to that and all the efforts and the vision and kind of looking forward towards what's certainly looks like very exciting opportunities for many of our residents. Thank you.
Councilor Toniol and Deputy Mayor Bichetti.
Thank you to you, Mr. Mayor. To Mr. Anthony, we discussed this before, and I've sent you some correspondence about upgrading the park over at Southfield, realizing it's not in the budget for now, but I'd just like to bring it up so we can get it in the future. Some money starting going there. And just to explain my reasonings, as we increase the CIP area there, I think we should be developing the Southfield Park into a nicer park, there's a lot of stack homes there with multi-generational people living there and no availability to put a swimming pool in. So I think it'd be only onerous on us to provide a splash pad at that end of the town in that demographic where people can't even put a swimming pool in their own property. So we should have something, you know, for the safety of the residents during the heat wave, so they can go in there and have an informal area to cool down, place for the kids, maybe even a neighborhood park, basketball court, pickleball court. And we've discussed this already. I just want to bring it up formally. So in the future, we can start budgeting for a splash pad at Southfield Park. And I think that's it. Thank you.
So if I just may respond to the mayor's chair to Council Tonio. Yes, that is correct. And again, those are discussions that will be held during the upcoming meeting with council on priorities. But we do know that Southfield Park is an area that there is some expansion going on with a couple new apartment complexes, and there was some project consultations that were brought forth that the public would like to see. And we will once again have some public consultations and go through a process and then look to budget for amenities into that park in the future.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. I also support Councillor Tonio's thinking in that regards with Southfield Park. If you take an aerial view of the town of Tecumseh, you'll notice where the swimming pools are in the residential homes and where certain individuals based on, socioeconomic class are able to afford some amenities where others are not. So we want to be able to spread that out. And as, like I say, if we can have it in the 2 to 3 year horizon, I think it would be well served to be able to install a splash pad there at Southfield Park. Just looking at the report here, I want to thank Mr. Anthony for a job well done in terms of spreading the funding around the municipality. If you look at all the areas, it's nice to see that there's going to be money spent, capital improvements at all of these parks. So that's to be well received. My only question, Mr. Anthony, is in terms of, McAuliffe Park, I know St. Mary's, even Weston. I know they have some volunteer groups that are heavily involved with programming. Were you able to consult with them? Are they aware of what's happening in those parks? Just for information, it's nice that you're able to involve them. I'm sure you have, but just want to ask that question as well with those user groups.
Once again, through the mayor to the deputy mayor, yes, we always have consultations. We have groups, the St. Mary's group and the McAuliffe group. We're very active. We speak to the presidents and the vice presidents and the organizers on a regular basis, as well as Weston Park. We do deal with the user groups out there. The tennis association had raised some concerns about cracks. So you'll see that we are going to redo the tennis courts this year. Councillor Jobin is aware that we have dealt with them as well in the past. Some of the volunteer groups, we did put a trail in last year, and we've done some upgrades this year. And certainly, I would like to. I have my management team that's in the dark right now on this evening's council meeting, and I want to certainly express it's a team effort, a total team effort, that you see the projects before you tonight on all of our areas of responsibility. And certainly I want to allocate out that to them as well.
All right, well, the beauty of life cycling, that's where, you know, when you've got a lot of different pockets of dollars that are dedicated, you know, and then on a yearly basis, it sure makes it a little bit easier to spread the wealth and, you know, throughout the community. One item I'd like to talk about and where it was very, very successful in the past, and where we leading to is the control of geese in Lakewood Park. As you know, we lost the opportunity of one of our best herders, and in near the tail end of summer and into the fall, our friends came back, and they sure make a mess of the trail system and so forth. Are we actively looking, Mr. Anthony, and for a replacement opportunities to again put controls on geese onto the park property?
Yes, I can inform you that our manager of Parks and Horticulture, Mr. Colthurst, is working with a couple individuals. One specifically, I believe, that has some border collies. We're checking to see if that individual might be able to provide some assistance to us. We did contact a gentleman that was in Lakeshore. He was willing to come forth. The only issue with it was he could only do it once a week. And we know from past history and from the experience we had with the successful trainer that we had, you have to be there on a daily basis and more than once a day. You have to be there multiple times of the day so the geese do not get familiar and realize, you know, the times that they need to be chased away. So there is a real knack to it. The individual who was there was fantastic, but Casey has reached out to a couple individuals to see if we can, you know, try to utilize their border collies. As we all know as well, we've had some offers from some other dog owners. The unfortunate part is that a lot of the dogs are not trained, and they will go after the geese, which is not acceptable. You know, we want to certainly keep the parks clean, but the border collies will not touch the geese. They will chase, but they will not engage with them. So that's the difference between those dogs, and it's difficult to get those. But we are certainly looking to see if we can secure the services again. And we have the funding in our operational budget for that.
Terrific. Okay, any further questions or comments on the first part of Mr. Anthony's report on the budget? If not, then a motion on the okay, let me get this here straight, that the 2022 Parks capital projects as summarized in attachment 1 report CRS 22-1 2022 Parks Capital Works Plan be approved, and that the 2022 Parks capital projects be funded through the life cycle reserves, the infrastructure reserve, and available grants as set out in attachment number 1. Moved by Councilor Tonio, supported by Councilor Dowie. On the motion, all in favor? Opposed, if any, that is carried. Move on to the second portion, Mr. Anthony, that would be your arena and pool capital works plan.
Yes, Mayor McNamara, members of council, again, what we're looking for through a recommendation of this report is that the 2022 arena and pool capital projects as summarized in attachment 1 to the report CRS 2022-02, 2022 arena and pool capital works plan be approved, and that the 2022 arena and pool capital projects be funded through the arena and pool life cycle reserves. Once again, I will note to council that a separate report in 2022 regarding the remainder of the 2023-2026 capital pool and arena 5-year capital works plan will be forthcoming. And the list of projects that are on the, I will just highlight the major project will be the replacement of the Rink B brine pump and chiller replacement. We did Rink A 2 years ago, and this Rink B is scheduled for this year. That's the major the project that is moving forward for the arena, as well as a number of maintenance, ongoing replacement, and ensuring that the equipment continues to run. We did have a malfunction late in the year on the LED scoreboard at the arena, which is requiring replacement. And fortunately, I guess you'd say unfortunately it failed, but fortunately it failed in time that we could include it in the budget to have that replaced as well. So I'm open to any questions on any of the projects here for the arena and pool capital projects.
Okay, any questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Bicchetti.
Thank you, Worship. Mr. Anthony, I know this is probably not capital, more operational, but there was talk about, I know it's COVID now, but in terms of the concession stand offering food for the users when they come to the arena, sometimes there's tournaments there, and I know we're looking at perhaps contracting that out. What's your thinking in terms of moving forward once this COVID normalizes and the arena starts getting more patrons in terms of offering that type of service?
So again, through the mayor to the deputy mayor, it's something that we're certainly looking at and reviewing. We do have a couple people who may be interested. I can tell you though that there are a lot of facilities that are really looking at their concessions operations, even though there are tournaments, et cetera, that they're really downsizing their operations to machines, vending machines, et cetera, which doesn't provide the full service that patrons are looking for, but there is sometimes a happy medium of time-wise. So we are looking, if the deputy mayor will recall, the last couple of years that we operated the facility, the canteen, we did have a substantial loss somewhere in the $10,000 range. And certainly if we're moving forward, we would be looking at contracting that service out to a third party, and we will look at all options.
Yeah, that makes sense, and it's fair. I think, like you said, there's opportunities where to offer that as a seasonal thing, but I was just wondering if there was any requirements regarding capital outlay in terms of for the arena. But based on that, I think, if you work with the groups, if there's a big event and say, look, we'll allow you to cater in pizza with this supplier and whatnot, I think that would go a long ways in terms of providing, I know people, look at the vending machines, but they also like that, their hot dogs or pizza when they have those tournaments. So thank you for that.
Any further questions or comments? The only comment that I have, Mr. Anthony, and I know I see on the board here that we have Mr. Walicki, who's on with us in the meeting, and a lot of those projects that capital projects coming forward, and that will be in his wheelhouse to help deliver, and maybe an opportunity for especially those that are energy users in particular, and anything from even the chiller replacement to the different lighting and so forth for energy efficiency. Maybe a contact with Essex Power to see if there's still available IESO program grants on upgrades on efficiency. We can save a few dollars or get a few dollars on certainly the upgrades. It would certainly bode well. So I would pass on that to get in contact with Essex Power and to see if there's some opportunities for grant advancements on the energy efficiency pieces.
And through the mayor, I will ask Mr. Walicki to turn his camera on and address council. But yes, that's one thing that that we consistently do. And whether it's retrofits and LED lighting or what have you, we do work with Essex Power or Ontario Hydro if it's in their vicinity, and do look for the rebates. But I'll let Mr. Walicki maybe elaborate a little bit more on that.
Thank you, Paul, and good evening, Mayor and members of council. Through your worship, with regards to energy efficiency, a lot of these projects that we have here listed do relate to that, or reflective of energy savings and reducing our consumption footprint. We will look to work with Essex Power and other components to look to minimize usage. Going a little bit further, we have made some traction as far as our energy team corporately to develop some plans moving ahead for this year and for years to come. So that will be forthcoming as well. But a lot of the projects in front of you are geared towards our vision, outlook, and towards reducing energy consumption as a whole.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Any further questions or comments? If not, then a motion that we fund the 2022 arena pool capital projects through the arena and pool life cycle reserves. Councilor Jobin, Councilor Altenhoff. All in favor? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Thank you. And I think you're still on. You're spending a lot of money tonight, Mr. Anthony.
Yes.
All good, though. All good.
So the final report this evening, Mayor McNamara, members of council, is the 2022 Municipal Buildings Capital Works Plan. And once again, it was recommended that the 2022 municipal buildings capital projects as summarized in attachment 1 to report number CRS 2022-03, the 2022 municipal buildings capital works plan be approved as presented, and that the 2022 municipal buildings capital projects be funded through the buildings life cycle reserve and available grants as described herein. Once again, as noted in the other two reports, we will certainly put forth a further capital report later in 2022 for the 2023 to 2026 projects when we complete our consultations with council. So I'm looking for the appendix, the project list. Again, one of the highlights that I may point out in this one is the electrical vehicle charging stations. So as council is aware, there was a grant that came out, a program through Essex Power, who we've been in consultation with. We've set aside $100,000 for this project, $50,000 from the municipal portion and $50,000 from the grant portion. And we are going to meet with the administrative team, propose a number of areas to put some of these electrical vehicle charging stations in, including our own facilities, which will prepare us for future use of electrifying our fleet as well as the community. The other highlight, I guess, the town hall replacement is a large number, and that comes from the COVID-19 Resilient Grant, which we received. And again, Mr. Walicki has been working with our suppliers to secure the units, and we will have those installed later this year. So I'm open to any questions or comments from council on the buildings capital summary project for 2022.
All right, thank you, Mr. Anthony. Questions or comments? Hearing none, then a motion that the project CRS 2022-03 be approved and that the municipal buildings capital projects be funded through the buildings life cycling reserve and available grant funding as described herein. Moved by Council Tonio, Council Altenhoff, support. All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Anthony, and to your team. All right, we call upon our chief and our Community Safety and Fire Services, the CS 2022-01 Fire Equipment 5-Year Capital Works Plan for 2022 to 2026. And I'll call upon the director, our fire chief, Mr. Bondi, to report and recommend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you to council. The report you have before you tonight, as the mayor just mentioned, is recommending or asking for approval of our fire equipment 2022 purchases, as well as the fire equipment 5-year capital plan. With respect to the 2022 fire equipment purchases, in addition to the traditional requests that you would see for helmets, boots, and bunker gear, there's 2 additional items, one for vehicle extrication tools for Station 2, as well as the locker replacements at Station 2. With respect to the extrication tools, we're looking at another cordless set, similar to the set that was purchased for Station 1 a couple of years ago. They're very advantageous in that we can deploy them quite quickly and are able to reach vehicles that have left the roadway for various reasons, making them quite a useful tool. And this would give a set at either end of the town. With respect to the locker replacements at Station 2, they are matching set that was installed at Station 1 in 2021. The new lockers are open air lockers. They save a lot of space, and they also allow gear to dry and off gas and dry out while they're hanging and waiting to be used again. With respect to the 5-year capital works plan, significant expenditures that we'll be asking for. First is the SCBA cylinder replacement. We've split that over 2 years, not only to spread the costs over the 2 years, but also to spread the testing requirements. The cylinders are required to be tested every 5 years, and this allows, splitting it over the 2 years allows us to spread the testing over 2 years so that they're not potentially out of service all at the same time. The largest expenditure there is for the radio system replacement in 2023. That is the estimated cost shown there is, as mentioned in the report, a standalone purchase by the town. However, that purchase would be explored as a joint purchase with 3 neighboring municipalities who are also users of the system. And of course, we're anticipating that the cost would be much lower than shown there. Of course, that purchase would be done in accordance with our purchasing policy, excuse me, and would be subject to a future report to council for approval. I'm available for questions if there are any from council.
All right, Councilor Ottenhoff, please.
Thank you, Worship, and through you, thank you, Fire Chief, Bondi, for the report. You hit the one point, with regards to the 5-year plan, noting that radio system replacement, effectively, it's going to burn the system for a number of years following. So please, I encourage you, yes, seek out and kind of exploit or explore, are there any opportunities, cost sharing or whatever it might be, to try to reduce, kind of the local burden of something that potentially, obviously has kind of use on the larger scope. One question I had with regards to the extrication equipment, and I know I probably asked it, I think, previously, because I was enlightened when I went to a demonstration of some of the equipment. Firefighters kind of presented to me, they said, well, some of the extrication equipment doesn't have the capability to get through the advanced high-strength steels that are now being used in the automobiles of nowadays. I believe the last purchase was fully capable for that. But now I would also put in the point of, extrication of these electric vehicles. Sure, there's kind of some training or talents that have to be exploited to make sure you're not cutting through any conduit, electrical conduit, because we could imagine the detriment that would be. but I just want to make sure the extrication equipment certainly can cut through those advanced high-strength steels, and that our firefighters are appropriately trained with regards to extrication from electric vehicles as well.
Yeah, through the mayor to Councillor Altenhoff. Yeah, certainly. We have done training in the past and continue to do so as vehicles evolve and advance. Certainly with our coverage of the 401 and Highway 3, trucks are no stranger to our department. So we do ensure actually twice annually training on extrication techniques. In addition, with respect to the electric vehicles, there are software programs available that you can pull up the model of the car, and it tells you where to cut and where not to cut, kind of the danger points of vehicles. So it is something that we do stay on top of. With respect to the strength of the tools, there were some previous generations of cordless tools that didn't quite measure up, but certainly, as you mentioned, the past set we purchased a few years ago is as strong as the corded sets that we have, and we intend to stick with that same type of tool. So,
thank you.
Further questions? Councillor Jobin.
Thank you. And through your, if Bill supported it, I will second it. But just to add, just a little follow-up, Chief Bondy, just on our new high water rescue vehicle. Have our crew members been training on it, and what's their feedback on the equipment?
Through the mayor to Councillor Jobin. It was just plated yesterday, actually, as a matter of fact. They just put the plates on tonight at training. They were going to run everybody through a driver training course, typical as we would with any new vehicle. As this one is rather tall and narrow and rather unique as compared to what they're used to driving, we'll certainly undertake some pretty thorough driver training going forward. And we're in the process of outfitting it with the emergency lighting. And once that is done, we will have an unveiling event with the mayor and council to bring it forward to the public.
Fantastic. Thank you.
All right. Any further questions or comments? Maybe the comment, Chief, from me in particular, and as alluded, our outside of purchasing new vehicles, the radio costs obviously are a big ticket item next year, but maybe you can explain to a little bit in terms of rationale why we're doing it, but most important piece is the safety of the firefighters and what the new communication pieces will do to add another level of safety to the firefighters compared to what we are what the protocol is today under the system we've got, and what the new system, what does it mean in terms of additional safety to the firefighters?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a number of improvements that the proposed system would have over our current system. Everything from number one, our radios aren't intrinsically safe, which means they can't be taken into explosive environments. There's no typically on an emergency responder radio, you would have a panic button, for lack of a better term. It's a one-touch button that calls for help, and it goes through dispatch. And even if command on scene doesn't recognize the situation, dispatch is alerted and they can notify the commander on scene. The new radios also are very usable with gloved hands. As you know, firefighting gloves are quite thick. When they become wet, they become quite cumbersome. You can change channels very easily on new radios. The buttons are designed to be used with gloved hands. With respect to our existing system, the technology was really built for commercial systems like public works, non-critical system, I don't want to say not critical systems, but less critical systems. So the redundancy in the systems themselves is much better in the new system. They also have the capability of being encrypted, which actually EMS and OPP are switching to an encrypted system very soon through the province. Generally it's just a more robust system. The radios are quite more robust than the ones we have for drops, for heat, for the typical exposure that they would see in our line of work.
So from what I gather, the radios and the additional technology, how they're built is no different than why firefighters wear bunker gear. It's basically another asset or piece of equipment that protects them. And in particular, when they get into fire situations, I would imagine where they're pretty much running blind inside of a burning building or and so forth. Not that we want them in there, but there are certain circumstances that obviously bring them to that conclusion. And so I think this is more for a benefit to the people that pay the bill, which is the taxpayer in the community. And the reason why council working with our emergency services to make sure that we provide them with the best of the tools in order to better serve the community, but most importantly, do it in a safe manner to protect the individuals that are asked to go into burning buildings.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself.
All right. With that, if there's no further questions or comments, I know the motion was to move by Councillor Alton, now supported by Councillor Jobin. On the motion, all in favor? Oppose, if any? That is carried. Thank you, Chief. All right, next is Legislative and Clerk Services, our Court of Revision appointment, the Cahill Drain. Call upon our director to summarize the report and give us a recommendation.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this report is presented this evening to recommend that council appoint a representative to the Court of Revision for the town of LaSalle, respecting any potential appeals on the drainage report being prepared for the Cahill Drain. The purpose for this appointment is that the town of LaSalle was petitioned by the Ministry of Transportation to have certain drainage works prepared to alter a number of drains within their municipality. One of those drains is the Cahill Drain, for which landowners in the town of Tecumseh are affected. LaSalle has engaged the services of Dillon Consulting as well as NJ Peralta Engineering to procure the drainage report. Subsequent to this request by the ministry, the City of Windsor also requested an extension of the drain upstream to include portions of the drain which cross the Herb Parkway. Their request was approved, and the report on the Cahill Drain has now been prepared by both Dillon and Peralta and will be considered by Town LaSalle at a special meeting, or a public meeting rather, on Tuesday, February 22nd at 4 p.m. Notice has gone out to our affected landowners. Following the provisional adoption of the drainage report that will likely occur at the Town of LaSalle's February 22nd meeting, they will be required to schedule a meeting of its Court of Revision. In accordance with the Drainage Act, municipalities must appoint a representative to the Court of Revision for the municipality of the initiating municipality. So in this case, both the City of Windsor and the Town of LaSalle are required to appoint at least one member to their Court of Revision. So this evening, we're asking that council give consideration, as you've done in the past, to appointing a representative to the Court of Revision for the Town of LaSalle. In the past, council has selected or appointed the council representative of the ward. That is my report to you, and I'm looking for some direction from council and happy to address any questions.
Councillor Dowling.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to the clerk. I see that this meeting conflicts with our digital strategy and disaster recovery meeting. So just for the benefit of the member of council selected, could that one be changed at all? Just so that participation could be facilitated?
Through you, your worship, the public meeting of LaSalle Council is occurring virtually at 4 o'clock on February 22nd. We're not required to have a council representative attend the public meeting. The council representative may, so they get the background of that. Currently, we are meeting virtually, so the council member could at least attend the first portion of the meeting virtually, and then move into the town's special meeting at, I believe it's 5 o'clock or 4:30 that evening. That special meeting is necessary to finalize presentations on 2 reports that have been funded under the Municipal Modernization Fund.
Okay. So obviously, this is, I think, pretty simple. Ward 5 is, I think, the ward in question, if I'm not mistaken. And so I would recommend that Councillor Jobin be appointed to by council to act on the quarter revision for the Cahill drain. Deputy Mayor Bichetti move, supported by Councillor Tonio. On the motion, all in favor? Oppose if any, that is carried. I should have asked if you accept, but
Sure, I do, absolutely. And I will attend up until the point that I can. I'll log in.
okay.
Thank you.
Well, we certainly appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so that's that. And then we'll move on. I think, Madam Clerk, I think you're still on. We got bylaws.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we have one bylaw on the agenda this evening, and that is bylaw for provisional adoption of the Antaya Drainage Report. As heard earlier this evening at the public meeting, we're respectfully asking for first and second readings only to this bylaw this evening.
All right, thank you. 2 readings. Councillor Jobin, Councillor Tonio. On 2 readings, questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed if any, that is carried. Thank you. Members of council, unfinished business. Don't see any new business. No new business. I just, Mr. I don't know if he's still on, Mr. Bartnick's still on, but I'm sure he's there. I just want to extend my thanks. Please extend our thanks to our public works crews and their water crews, parks crews, all of them that work diligently over the last two storms. Not happy about them filling up my driveway, but outside of that, I'm happy to clear the roads. But no, all kidding aside, just extend our thanks to them. And you know, it's ironic, but you always get comparators from folks that live in other communities, and they say, if you want to learn how to clean streets, go to Tecumseh. And so it's always good to know. So please extend our thanks to them for a job well done. Okay, no further new business, then motion to confirm the proceedings of our meeting this evening. 3 readings. Councillor Altenhoff moves, support. Councillor Jobin on 3 readings to confirm. All in favor? Oppose if any, that is carried. Members of council, any notices of motion? I don't see any hands. So we'll go to our next meetings will be held Tuesday, February 22nd. We have an early start, members of council at 4:30, and that's a special council meeting. That's the Digital Strategy and Disaster Recovery Business Continuity Strategy. 5:30, our public meeting on a ZBA at 6067 Walker Road. 6 p.m. a public council meeting, also a ZBA for 1401 and 1429 L'Esperance Road. That's a proposed 3 6-unit residential apartment development, followed by a regular council meeting at 7 p.m. I believe our evening's work is completed, so adjournment is in order. Moved by Deputy Mayor Becchetti, supported Council Antonio. All in favor? Oppose if any, that is carried. So obviously our evening work is completed. And I want to pay a special thanks to council members, administration, and certainly our folks that are watching from the comforts of home as they're streaming our proceedings. I bid you good night, stay safe, and until we meet again.